The sun was sinking behind the vast red cliffs of Arizona when Daniel Carter's truck rolled to a slow stop at the edge of the Apache settlement. Dust hung in the air, glowing gold in the evening light, and the distant sound of drums echoed through the valley. Daniel stepped out, adjusting his jacket, trying to steady his breath. He reminded himself why he was here. Months earlier, after getting lost during a solo expedition, he had been found half-conscious by a young Apache woman named Ayanna. She had nursed him back to health, and during those long days of recovery, something deeper than gratitude had grown between them. When her family later spoke of marriage, Daniel believed he understood. One woman, one commitment, a simple promise. As he walked into the gathering, eyes followed him with quiet curiosity. Fires were lit, and elders sat in a circle, their expressions calm but unreadable. Ayanna approached him, her dark hair braided neatly, her presence instantly easing his nerves. She smiled, the same gentle smile that had comforted him when he was weak and afraid. When the elder began to speak in the Apache language, Daniel could only guess at the meaning. The words were slow, heavy with tradition, and carried a weight that made his chest tighten. At one point, the elder turned directly toward him and paused. Ayanna squeezed Daniel's hand and nodded. Trusting her completely, Daniel said yes. The moment the word left his mouth, the atmosphere shifted. Drums grew louder, voices rose in celebration, and several women placed ceremonial beads around Daniel's neck. He laughed softly, overwhelmed but happy, believing this was simply the beginning of a shared future. But as the celebration continued, something caught his attention. Two young women stepped forward from the crowd and stood beside Ayanna. Daniel froze. They looked exactly like her. The same sharp eyes, the same posture, the same quiet confidence. He leaned toward Ayanna, lowering his voice. "Why do they look just like you?" he asked, forcing a smile. Ayanna glanced at the two women and then back at Daniel, her expression unreadable. "Because we share the same blood," she replied calmly. Before he could question her further, the elder raised his staff and spoke again, his voice powerful enough to silence the drums. The crowd erupted into cheers, louder than before. Daniel smiled uncertainly, a strange feeling twisting in his stomach. He had come believing he was accepting one life, one love. He had no idea that with a single word, he had stepped into a promise far greater than he ever imagined. Morning light slipped through the thin opening of the lodge, waking Daniel Carter with a heavy sense of unease. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then the memory of drums, firelight, and unfamiliar voices came rushing back. He sat up slowly, rubbing his temples, his mind replaying the strange moment from the night before. The celebration had felt joyful, yet something about it had been unsettling, like a truth hidden just beyond his understanding. When he stepped outside, the cool air hit his face. Sitting near the fire were three women, waiting as if they had known the exact moment he would appear. His breath caught in his throat. Ayanna was there, but so were the two women from the night before. In daylight, there was no denying it. They were identical. The same face, the same height, even the same calm intensity in their eyes. The only difference was in their expressions. Ayanna's gaze was steady and protective. One of the others looked gentle and thoughtful, while the third held a playful, almost daring smile. Daniel cleared his throat. "I need an explanation," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The elder approached, leaning on his staff, and began to speak in careful English. He explained that the three women were sisters, born on the same night, bound by a tradition older than the cliffs surrounding the land. In their culture, when a man accepted the hand of one sister through a ceremonial promise, he accepted the family bond itself. The words felt unreal as they settled into Daniel's mind. "You mean all three?" Daniel asked, his heart pounding. Ayanna nodded gently and took a step closer. "You were not tricked," she said. "The promise was sacred. We believed you understood." Daniel stepped back, panic tightening his chest. "I didn't. I would never agree to something I didn't know about." The gentle sister spoke then, her voice soft but firm, saying that no man had ever refused such a bond. The third sister simply watched him, her expression unreadable, as if measuring his strength. Daniel felt the weight of every eye in the settlement on him. Though no one else stood nearby, This wasn't just about marriage, it was about honor, tradition, and respect. As the day passed, Daniel walked alone along the edge of the canyon, struggling to breathe through the storm of thoughts in his head. Leaving felt like betrayal, yet staying felt overwhelming. He realized, with growing fear, that this choice would define him forever. What unsettled him most wasn't the tradition itself, but the way each sister affected him differently. Without meaning to, he had already begun to see them not as one impossible situation, but as three distinct lives now strangely tied to his own. Days passed, and Daniel Carter felt as if he were walking through a dream he could neither wake from nor fully understand. Each morning, the sun painted the cliffs in shades of fire, and each evening, the drums echoed across the valley, a constant reminder of the promise he had made unknowingly to three sisters. At first he tried to resist, telling himself it was impossible to share a life, a home or a heart with three women at once. But as he spent time with them, he discovered the complexity of who they were and how each complemented the other, in ways he could never have imagined. Ayana, the eldest and the leader, carried herself with quiet authority, her eyes scanning the horizon as if she alone could protect everyone. Nayeli, gentle and serene, seemed to know the world's pains and offered solace without words, her laughter rare but unforgettable. Sahale, wild and untamed, laughed in the face of danger, daring Daniel to step beyond the safety of his old life. Together, they were not just sisters, they were a force, and he found himself drawn into their orbit, helpless against it. One evening, the elder led Daniel to a cliff overlooking the valley, where generations of warriors had once proven their courage. He explained the choice before him. He could leave, but only before sunrise, and he would leave forever without claiming his place in their world. Daniel looked at the sisters standing silently behind him, their eyes reflecting the last light of day. None begged him to stay, none tried to sway him with words or tears. Their presence alone, calm and unwavering, spoke volumes. He realized that this was a test, not of his strength, but of his heart. The fear and confusion that had plagued him in the beginning now mingled with something else. A quiet respect for the depth of their tradition, for their unity, and for the love they were willing to share if he chose to embrace it. As the first rays of the sun lit the cliffs, Daniel stood at the edge of the path that led away from the tribe. For a moment he imagined leaving, returning to a world of certainty and simplicity. Then he turned back, meeting the gaze of each sister in turn. "I didn't choose three wives," he said, his voice steady. "I chose one promise, and I will honor it." Their eyes shone with a mixture of relief and pride, and for the first time, Daniel felt a sense of belonging that went beyond fear, beyond obligation. What he didn't yet know was that this choice would shape not only his destiny but also the lives of everyone in the settlement, drawing him into a story that would test love, tradition, and courage in ways he could never have imagined. In that moment, as the sun rose over the red cliffs, Daniel realized that some promises, no matter how unexpected, are meant to be kept.